Lee Sin currently stands amongst the top junglers in the game, with many positive matchups. He's a strong duelist and has a lot of strengths, as seen right here in this list, that give him an innate advantage over other junglers, and he has several unique traits only found on him, with very little weaknesses, if any. Lee Sin's greatest strength is that he is energy based. This means he doesn't run on mana. This alone lets him take a multitude of different paths, both item and jungle wise, with very little negative outcomes. This alone lets him manipulate what he wants to do in order to deal with his opponents in the best way possible. Amplifiers are variables that a character can take advantage of to greatly boost their prowess in the game. Lee Sin is able to take control of a lot of different amplifiers and vastly increase his strength, therefore his amplification effect is very high. One of Lee Sin's greatest amplifiers is his red buff, as the slow can buy him enough time for him to recharge his energy by auto-attacking for his passive, and thus get a whole nother wave of a combo in. One of his strongest amplifiers is the positioning of his teammates, as he can use his non-offensive ability to close in the gap and therefore have all his offensive abilities at his disposal. Lee Sin is currently in possession of extremely positive matchups versus laners. There is no one he cannot gank, though there are laners that are more resistant towards his ganks than others. Lee Sin, being energy based, is also able to repeatedly gank a lane and camp it, therefore being able to single-handedly crush a lane or relieve pressure from his teammates. The characters most likely to resist Lee Sin are characters with any form of mobility, in the forms of dashes, blinks, or just high movement speed. They are the ones most resistant to his ganks. Squishier targets or low mobility targets are his food. Since there is no real targets that give him such issues, I can only give out tips on when it comes to ganking the lanes. One of the best pieces of advice I can give is to give the impression of a fake surrender. If your first gank doesn't result in a kill, you simply make it as though you have left and that you have given up trying to kill them, and return right away, putting yourself in a position that they would not have suspected, either in the bushes nearby where minions couldn't see you, or if you were spotted, simply backing off and going right back once they lose vision of you. One of the best ways for Lee Sin to gank a lane is to wait for his opponents to use their escapes or crowd control on his allies, and for him to then close in the gap using his W. Therefore, he still has all his offensive capabilities, while his opponents have already used up their escapes or any forms of stopping Lee Sin. It is also recommended that you try to lead in when you're Tempest cripple, so you can gain superior positioning towards your opponents, and you can better aim your Sonic Wave. The other effect of it is you force your opponent to sometimes use his escape abilities to try to escape, and sometimes it is futile, as you can just close in the gap again with the Sonic Wave. An important thing to note is that you can also cast the second ability of Tempest, Cripple, while you're moving, so you can reposition yourself as your opponents are being slowed and better cast your abilities. It is also vital that you learn to use the Resonating Strike as a finisher, especially when your opponents have the chance of actually escaping, so you can quickly close in the gap and finish them off. So that being said, Sonic Waves and Resonating Strike's main purpose is to either close the gap on targets that have a high chance of escaping, and it has to be done by surprise, or by catching them as they're trying to escape to finish the job. Like his lane matchups, he currently is in possession of extremely positive matchups versus other junglers, at least for the majority of the cast. He's an invader jungler that specializes in both dueling and thievery, so he's able to not only crush other gankers, but other control junglers like himself. The fact that he doesn't run on mana, and the fact that he has malleable paths give him a distinct advantage very few others can match. Lee Sin's greatest defense versus controllers is that he doesn't run on mana. Therefore, their assaults on him are more streamlined, and he can better defend against them if he predicts their movements correctly. And since they have less possible movements, it is a lot easier to predict. Versus other control junglers, Lee Sin is best to outfit himself with more movement speed, such as buying modes of mobility. It becomes a game of cat and mouse versus other control junglers. Lee Sin is best to try to search for them and find them in whatever camp they may be and force them off. He doesn't necessarily have to kill them, but he could just try forcing them off and disengaging if they try to fight him in return. He's very strong at re-engaging and disengaging, so he can go back and forth and constantly harass these control junglers and keep them in their side of the jungle. Since most control junglers are resistant to thievery types of invasion, it is best to go for a straight out duel. Lee Sin should best look to constantly harass the enemy jungler to force them home or force them away from a camp so you can take it from right under them. Therefore, they wasted their time going to that camp, and the thievery works out better that way. Since Lee Sin has a very easy time engaging, disengaging, and re-engaging his opponents, it is very easy for Lee Sin to force out his opponent's gap closers, the CC, escapes, or what have you, and re-engage once their abilities are down, therefore giving Lee Sin an amplified advantage versus his opponents. And if their crowd control or abilities return, he can easily just disengage once more and avoid it altogether. Now versus gankers, Lee Sin does best at just trying to find them and break their legs. If he's able to find them in the jungle and hurt them enough, they won't be able to gank his teammates. Therefore, that is in a way winning his teammates' lanes. What Lee Sin could do is try to read the lanes and predict where the next gank will come. And as already seen in previous clips, he can easily engage on a gank and thus counter gank his opponents and just change the tide completely. Lee Sin is very good at counter ganking, so he can just hound the enemy jungler and keep him from ganking his lanes if he wasn't able to outright find him and duel him and cripple him. If Lee Sin were to camp a lane and repeatedly attempt to gank it and simply pressure the lane so badly, it will force either another teammate to come help him, making the jungler take up a lane and you'll know where he is, or the jungler has to come and assist his laner, and thus he may end up joining into a fight that is at his disadvantage, or he'll be tricked and counter-jungled by Lee Sin's teammates or by Lee Sin himself after luring him up there. Lee Sin targets gankers' time. Time is a very valuable resource for gankers. If they're pressured into leaving the jungle and no longer gaining experience, they may miss out on vital points of the game, such as when the mid laner or the side laners are at a certain level when they can least resist his ganks. Therefore, if Lee Sin targets his opponent's time, he'll miss out on his chances, thus making his ganks weaker and making him weaker as the game goes on. He won't transition as well. It is in a way pressuring the jungler to make decisions he doesn't want to. Lee Sin's matchups are at the worst average. He slightly beats Udyr, very slightly. He slightly beats Trundle. But if there's anyone who has a slight advantage over him, it is Fiddlesticks, which is mostly due to the fact that Fiddlesticks can drain him and Lee Sin can't stop him unless he uses his ultimate. But that is a very slight advantage, and the advantage goes away once Lee Sin hits level 6. So it isn't anything major. Lee Sin currently doesn't lose to any other junglers. He has enough tools to play around with them, if you can say that. But Lee Sin is Shaco's greatest counter. If there's an enemy jungle Shaco, Lee Sin will crush him. Lee Sin has two abilities to reveal stealth. One which is Tempest, and it has a very much easy time revealing Shaco, even if he's already blinked away. Predicting where he is very easy with Tempest. Just randomly use it in a spot and you might just catch him. And Cripple will get him, Cripple is the follow-up that will make Sonic Wave easier to hit on a Shaco, even if he's blinked away. Shaco is also a very, very squishy character, which Lee Sin just tears through. So in a duel, Lee Sin will be able to withstand Shaco's barrage, and also he has, built-in steroids and debuffs for his opponents, so that helps him out, and beat Shaco. Shaco can barely do anything to Lee Sin. Worst of all is Shaco's paths are predictable, thus Lee Sin can easily ambush Shaco, which is, surprising given Shaco's nature. So this is one of Shaco's worst matchups, and a matchup Lee Sin should take every advantage of.